So you don't think New Yorkers have had enough? You don't think they're tired of feeling the way they feel and being treated the way they've been treated? Check some of this out.
Governor Hochul discussed New York's migrant crisis with President Biden yesterday in a conversation she called very productive.
Okay, meantime, on Staten Island, 10 people were arrested, taken into police custody because they were protesting a new migrant shelter at a former senior living facility on their borough. Briella Tomasetti has more from Midland Beach. I mean, things are starting to get a little disruptive in almost every borough. They don't want them there anymore.
Yeah, and in fact, Rosanna and Bianca, there is a police presence here this morning because those protests last night were so disruptive. Protesters got in front of a bus at one point, blocking it from entering that facility. As a reminder, the city is caring for nearly 60,000 migrants right now. Let's face it, that number is not expected to get smaller anytime soon. Now, Mayor Adams says that he has communicated with the White House about the urgency of the moment, but it's also clear that tensions are rising between the mayor and President Biden. The two did not cross paths yesterday, nor are they expected to today. So now all options are on the table. And yes, one of those options includes a new shelter here on Staten Island. More mayhem on Staten Island during yet another night of intense protests. Police from the NYPD's 122nd Precinct were called to Father Capodanno Boulevard for reports of crowd control issues after demonstrators blocked a city bus thought to be carrying asylum seekers. 10 people were taken into custody. 9 of them were given summonses for disorderly conduct, and the 10th person, a 48-year-old man, is still awaiting potential charges. What provoked these protests? Well, according to SILive.com, a former senior living facility in Midland Beach is the latest migrant shelter to open in the city. Plans to house asylum seekers on Staten Island have drawn fierce pushback from neighbors and lawmakers. Just last month, the borough was at the helm of the city's migrant crisis when St. John Villa Academy, a former Catholic school, was transformed into a 300-bed makeshift shelter. Mayor Adams has slammed the federal government for its lack of help on the issue and says New York City is carrying the weight of a national problem.
I'm very public. Everybody knows who I am. You guys know where I am all the time. We'll release if we're going to be with the president or not.
But there was no mention of a meeting with President Biden on the mayor's schedule yesterday. White House aides also confirmed there was nothing on the agenda. Biden's schedule for today includes more meetings and campaigning before heading back to Washington.
I spoke to the president earlier this year and shared our concerns. Both the governor was also communicated with him, and that was the last time we spoke with the president.
Governor Hochul, in the meantime, wrote on Twitter or X that she, quote, had a very productive conversation with President Biden tonight regarding some of our specific requests for help with the migrant crisis. Also commended him on his leadership at the UN today. Adams predicts the migrant crisis will cost the city $12 billion by July of 2025. Now he's ordered all city agencies to slash their budgets 15% by next year. Local elected officials.
But here's the problem, though. Like, my grandma lives in New Jersey, right? And she's in a senior building. And her sister just now recently got housing in a senior facility. And that stuff takes time. And there's always a waiting list to get in certain places. It's always a hassle. So it's like, I see why people are protesting. Seniors, it takes them a while to get into some of these places. In some places they can't get into because they're full. But you turn a senior facility into something else. So I can understand why people are protesting and upset.
Officials and community activists are strongly urging the mayor to reconsider that controversial decision. For now, though, we're live in Midland Beach. Bianca and Rosanna, back to you.
All right, Briella, thanks so much.
Now to the migrant crisis in New York City and the growing opposition to housing asylum seekers across the 5 boroughs. Protesters on Staten Island gathered outside of a senior living facility in Midland Beach last night after learning it will house migrants. And then things got chaotic, resulting in several arrests. Eyewitness News reporter Janice Yu live in Midland Beach this morning with the latest on the investigation. Janice, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. We actually saw similar situations play out just about a month ago when community members protested the use of the former St. John Villa Academy here on Staten Island to be used as a migrant shelter. There's a legal battle ongoing over that. But again, a similar situation happening here. And take a look behind me. This road is closed right now. So all the roads surrounding the Island Shores Senior Living Facility is being barricaded off. There are officers here keeping an eye on things as well. Protesters gathered yesterday in front of an NTA bus in front of this senior living facility. There were a line of officers facing the protesters, and in the end, 10 people were arrested, charged with disorderly conduct. A 48-year-old man was charged for allegedly assaulting an officer who was trying to arrest someone. This 288-bed facility was put up for sale last year.
As I told them, they don't have enough handcuffs, they don't have enough cops, they don't have enough cars. We're going to be here 24/7, 365, and the illegals are not going to want to come here. They should stay in Manhattan.
Well, meanwhile, New York City is considering some changes on how long single adult asylum seekers can stay in shelters, from 60 days, which is what it is currently, to 30. It's also considering putting a 60-day restriction on how long families with children are allowed to stay in shelters. Right now, they are allowed to stay for as long as they need. Now, Governor Hochul yesterday did meet with President Biden, who is in town for the UN General Assembly. She did say she talked about specific requests regarding the migrant crisis.
In the meantime, following developments in New York regarding migrants, I did get that right, in New York regarding migrants, because a lot of these that had been moved to American cities, in fact, what they call sheltering cities, they can't shelter them, they can't handle them. And right now, it's gotten so bad that the Democratic mayor and the Democratic governor in New York have petitioned the Biden administration to do something, anything. Curtis Sliwa, the former New York City mayoral candidate, with us right now. Curtis, this is a mess. And
this so much so reminds me, and I hate to keep referencing it, but it reminds me so much of like the homeless situation over on the West Coast, and how they had that long strip of road where all the homeless came and where they resided at, and the businesses were getting broke into, and the business owners were dealing with so much that they just started packing up and leave. So when I look at them standing outside there with the barricade, and I'm looking at the businesses behind them, I'm thinking, this is history repeating itself, just in a different location.
Anything. Curtis Sliwa, the former New York City mayoral candidate, with us right now. Curtis, this is a mess and getting messier. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at it. It's almost like when I was a kid, you watched the Three Stooges, Moe, Larry, and Curly. Which way did they go? You have Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan. He's had no plan all during this process, getting along well with Hochul for so many months. And then all of a sudden they turn on one another. And unexpectedly, it's almost like in football camp, Mayorkas comes on behalf of Biden and says, give me your playbooks back. You guys are not following the federal rules. So you got all three of these folks at odds with one another. Meantime, the buses keep coming in every day, overwhelming Adams. Hochul doesn't want him in other parts of the state, so they're at odds. I mean, we're talking a real hot mess here, and our politicians are not leading, but they're actually arguing publicly with one another. So what does that say to Democrats, Republicans, and independents? You can't depend on the politicians. That's why you notice all these demonstrations by all these various groups, moderate Democrats, Republicans, independents, that say no to tents, no to shelters, no to hotels, no to the migrants.
What do you think, Curtis, of those who want to sue Texas Governor Abbott for creating this firestorm? I noticed that the 300 or so that have been cited in New York, I believe they're outside the New York Peninsula Hotel. It's only a couple of blocks from here. He deals with this by the tens of thousands, but what do you think of that?
Yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out. Remember, Eric Adams, a year ago, took on the governor who said, look, Eric, you're a Democrat, I'm a Republican. You're a sanctuary city, you're a sanctuary state. I need relief. I'm not getting it from the president. I'm shipping them to you. But he invited Eric Adams down to the border so he could see for himself the problem at Eagle Pass, Juarez into El Paso, Nuevo Laredo into Laredo. And Eric Adams said, you're a racist. We can do it better. We're a sanctuary city. We'll give them PlayStation, 72-inch plasma TVs. We'll give them Obama phones, 3 squares a day, 3-star hotel rooms. Once they saw that in third world countries, they made a bum rush right to the border. They were probably telling their relatives and friends, you know, eventually they're going to wake up and seal the border. Better get across now. On the other side, tell them you want to go to New York because you get everything that even citizens don't get in New York. That's the problem here. And now they're unvaccinated. So on Thursday, school starts. 19,000 children will enter the public school system unvaccinated. He wants to give jobs to the illegal aliens right out of the box. None of them are vaccinated. I'm thinking to myself, these brave civil servants, many of them, cops, firefighters, healthcare workers, remember how we applauded when we applauded in the middle of the lockdown and pandemic every night at 7? Some of them became zeros after being heroes because they wouldn't take the vaccine. None of them have been called back. They can't even get back pay. They can't get benefits. And then they look at these illegal aliens who are not vaccinated, immediately jumping the queue and getting work potentially. You know, if you happen to be an American citizen, even if you're a moderate Democrat, you're saying, what has happened to our party? We become the party of the illegals, and the Republicans actually are using a lot of common sense in this issue. It may well be the ticket, the pathway to majorities in this.
And you're going to create tension, turmoil. You're going to create that. Because how do somebody else who didn't even live here a second ago jump in front of me and I'm sitting here trying to fight for position myself? Like, you're gonna create resentment towards that person who don't even have nothing to do with what's going on between me and you. You just inserted them in. Like, what did I just hear? What did I just hear? And they've been dealing with this. This is mind-blowing. Oh my goodness.
It may well be the ticket, the pathway to majorities in the Senate, the House, taking the presidency and sweeping a lot of these legislators clean of their veto-proof majorities come 2024.
We'll have to watch closely, Curtis. Thank you very much. And by the way, we did put out calls to Mayor Adams to come on and talk about this. We have not heard back. Also wanted to let you know that some have feared, even within the mayor's own party, the Democratic Party, that any jobs or offers get a structure for those migrants who are here will only encourage more migrants to come here. Separately, we're hearing from neighboring New Jersey, Governor Murphy, saying, I don't see any scenario here, quoting from New Jersey News 12, where he spoke, where New Jersey can take in these displaced migrants.
That move will make it much easier and faster for Venezuelan migrants to work in the U.S., which has been a key demand from New York lawmakers struggling to handle the influx of migrants.
The news comes as people protest a new migrant shelter in Staten Island tonight. That's where we find Fox 5's Teresa Priolo. And Teresa, what are people saying about the news out there?
Yeah, Natasha and Steve, people tell me that they are concerned for their community. They say they have no problem with the migrant children. They are concerned about the influx of migrant men, many of whom will be housed at what was the senior living facility behind me. Staten Islanders of every age and race came to 1111 Father Capodanno Boulevard to make their feelings known.
Would Eric Adams kick his own mother out to put illegal immigrants in here? My mother's 87 years old.
With encouragement from cars.
Listen, you're never going to hear me not appreciate somebody that's taking up for seniors, man. I appreciate somebody standing up for seniors. They deserve it. They need somebody to speak up for them.
In slow-moving traffic, their message was clear.
They took out old people that were paying thousands and veterans and give them free homes. It's just unbelievable.
They showed up in droves for a second night in a row, concerned that this former senior living facility called Island Shores Beach is now the city's newest migrant shelter. 288 beds, once reserved for elderly New Yorkers, now turned over to the city to house migrant men.
I got an email saying she has to move out. No one knew here. It was a secret. No one knew what was going on here until now.
The city says that's not true. The building was vacant. Still, there's a concern concerned that in the midst of this crisis, New York is ignoring.
So which one is it? Was it vacant, or was seniors living in there? According to that guy, I don't know if it was his mother or grandmother, somebody related to him who was a senior was there. So what are they saying? See, they hiding behind things now, man. Like, this ain't right.
Ignoring its other problems too.
My family's all military. There's a lot of military that are out in the streets, and they're putting migrants in homes.
This isn't Staten Island's only shelter. Tuesday night, things got heated as tensions boiled over. New Yorkers telling us they're at their breaking point, especially when it comes to kids in schools.
I feel bad for the migrant children. They're innocent, you know, but our kids are going to suffer.
Mayor Adams says he's considering shortening the length of the shelter stay for single adult migrants from 60 days to 30. As for the vaccinations, all kids must be up to date for school, but they don't need to submit their immunization records to apply.
Just a sad situation. It's not nothing about them. It's about the way they came in and about what is not being done for the people that live here.
Look, I have nothing against these people. I don't know them. I feel for them. But take care of our own first.
Now, we mentioned this comes as the Biden administration has approved temporary protective status for Venezuelan asylum seekers. And basically what that does is it allows them not to be able to be deported. They can't be detained on the basis of their immigration status. It also allows them the ability to work here across the country, but of course in New York State. And that's the latest from Midland Beach, Staten Island tonight. Back to you guys in the studio.
Teresa, thank you.
Now, to align yourself with somebody who's obviously a one-term mayor, if he even makes it that far, you better be worrying about your job. You better be worrying about your longevity. Because we're going to vote, and we're going to get you out. Because you ain't doing right by us. That's what time it is.
Chicagoans furious and sounding off on Mayor Johnson's plan to tack on another $70 million to migrant funding. Frustration building to the point that some voters are now working to get him out of office, as you heard that constituent there saying. Garrett Tenney live in Chicago with the story. Hi, Garrett.
Yeah, Dana, good morning to you. This migrant issue has become an Achilles heel for Mayor Brandon Johnson, so much so that there are now multiple efforts underway to vote out Democrats and the mayor. We saw that yesterday at the city council meeting where several groups of black voters showed up wearing red shirts with the words "No More Blue, Go Red," and "Turn Chicago Red." Many of these folks are lifelong Democrats who are now actively working to shake up deep blue Chicago, specifically because of how the mayor and the governor have handled the migrant crisis, doling out more than $1 billion so far for that. And here they are warning the mayor and city council about transferring another $70 million from the city's rainy day fund to take care of the migrants.
I mean, what did you think was gonna happen?
We need that money in my neighborhood. We need that on my block. So I'm asking y'all to use our tax money for our people. We need it. You vote for the money for these immigrants today, and we coming for them seats. You can believe that.
The police are fighting with them in the shelters that you guys are funding. You guys think it's a great idea, but yet your police officers are getting attacked. Your public's getting attacked.
Currently, state law does not allow voters to recall Chicago's mayor, but after seeing how Mayor Johnson's first year has gone with the migrants and crime, a new group wants to change that by getting a referendum on the ballot this November that would pave the way to voting Johnson out.
We're not taking care of Chicago citizens first, and that's what it's all about. The fact of the matter is that we've never had this opportunity to recall before, and it's very apparent, based on the mayor's abilities right now, or lack of accountability, that this needs to be addressed.
Yeah, Mayor Johnson is dismissing this recall effort as a right-wing effort from folks living out in the suburbs. But Dan laughed at that, saying he's lived in Chicago for 33 years. He is an independent. And in the 24 hours since news came out about this effort, he said there's been an outpouring support from folks of all backgrounds looking to sign on. Dana?
Garrett Tenney, thank you. They're in Chicago for us.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe.
And joining me now is Denver Mayor Mike Johnson. Mr. Mayor, thank you. And joining me now is Denver Mayor Mike Johnson. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being with us. And my first question is, what resources, just generally, do you feel like you need from the federal government right now amid this surge in migrants?
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I mean, I think we have been pushing really hard that there are three key items we need right now. We definitely need the Congress to take action on dollars for support for cities. That's key. I think the second is we need more work authorization for folks that are arriving to our cities. The biggest issue is we have folks here who want to work and are not able to work. And the third is we need their help on a plan for coordinated entry. So we don't have just the governor of one state deciding where all newcomers go, but actually a coordinated plan nationwide for all of our cities and states to be a part of the solution. And we think those three things can actually help us be very successful. We just need those three things from Congress to be able to succeed here at the city level.
You've been pushing on the issue of work authorization specifically for some time now. You asked the White House last month for more authorizations. Have you gotten any response from the Biden administration or any indication that increased authorizations might be part of the negotiations that are going on in D.C. around this border issue?
We're working hard at it. I think they understand it and see it. I met with Secretary Mayorkas months ago, and that was before he then took the step to grant temporary protective status for Venezuelans that came before July 31. That was a tremendous help for many of our Venezuelan newcomers who arrived in August and September. The challenge is now, we have 4,500 migrants in shelter tonight in Denver. We are the single largest recipient of migrants per capita of any city in America. And almost all those folks that have arrived now don't have access to that temporary protective status, so they don't have a clear path to work authorization. That makes it harder and harder for us to help them. And every time I see folks, they ask me the same thing, which is just, how can I get a job? All I need is access to work. And so we're optimistic that that's making progress, and we think there's should be an area of bipartisan support. Nothing more un-American than having someone come to the country and tell them they can't work to support themselves once they get here. So we think whatever Congress decides is their admission policy, that's got to come with clear and immediate access to work once they arrive.
We had the mayor of Houston on just before Christmas. We've had a lot of mayors who've been talking about this issue publicly. I'm curious what the conversations are like behind the scenes, the contact you have with your fellow big city mayors, all of you trying to address this issue from slightly different perspectives all around the country.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation and partnership. Obviously, right now, Chicago and New York and Denver together, we've accepted more than 200,000 migrants. So we are the great majority of all of the incoming traffic right now. So we have been in regular contact, but I've also been in a lot of contact with other mayors from other cities, some of whom have less inflow of migrants right now and are willing to be a part of the coalition to find a better solution. So I think when you're a city mayor, you're nonpartisan, you don't have a flag in the ideological battle in D.C. You just want to be able to run your city effectively. And what we need really is this work authorization plus resources and a coordinated plan. And we think that gets us a long way towards a successful strategy.
But my understanding is...
But what jobs, though? Where are they going to work? Especially when you have people here that are screaming for employment. So where are you going to put these people to work at?
Has become something of a political fight in Colorado, where you've had some of the surrounding counties and communities very concerned about how Denver is handling this. Does the governor step in that situation? I mean, talk to me about how this is working in your region, in your broader community.
The governor has been a great support for us, so we're lucky to have Governor Polis, and his team has done a fantastic job to help us with resources and other supports. But we do know this is a regional issue. I mean, the major reason we're the top recipient for migrants right now is because we are the shortest and cheapest bus ticket north of El Paso. You come straight north on I-25 from El Paso, Denver is the first big city you hit. And so we think this does need to be a regional solution. We're talking to mayors around the region. And frankly, we're hitting a point where there's not much else we can do. We have almost filled every single available hotel room in the city and county of Denver. And so we're over 4,500 migrants in shelter tonight. If that number continues to rise, we just wouldn't have the capacity in Denver to support it. So we are reaching out beyond our borders, and we know people have questions and concerns, but I think they also don't want to see families and kids homeless in the streets of our cities. And so we want to make sure we find a solution that can avoid that.
Well, to that end, you've said you've not considered turning away any of these buses of migrants that are coming to your city, but is there a point at which that's something Denver might have to do or something you might have to consider?
Yeah, we're going to hit a capacity at which we just won't be able anymore to manage the amount of inflow. And so we're trying to avoid that problem, but we know we can't keep growing at this pace. When I took the oath of office 6 months ago, we had about 400 migrants in shelter. We are more than 10 times that number right now. We've brought 35,000 through this year, and remarkably been able to get 99% of them up and placed into housing or work or onward travel. And so we have been very successful, but now we're hitting a breaking point at which there's just not enough volume of work or of housing in the city to support this ongoing volume. Not to mention the impact on city budgets. This could be $160 or $180 million of impact in our budget next year. That's almost 15% of the entire city budget. So those are numbers we certainly couldn't accommodate on our own without real help.
And to that end, I mean, New York City's mayor, Eric Adams, they've been getting hammered by this. He told a reporter recently, he said something to the effect of, not everyone that's coming into this country is pursuing the American dream. It sounded somewhat Trumpian. I mean, I wonder how you feel like, does that narrative kind of play into the anti-immigrant argument that we're hearing from Donald Trump and some of his supporters? How do you view that?
I mean, the thing that actually gives me hope about this scenario is that every day it's quite clear to me there is a path to solve it. And when I talk to migrants every single day, all they say is, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't need help or charity. All I want is a job. At the same time, I get calls every day from employers and CEOs who say, hey, Mike, I hear there are a bunch of migrants just arrived. I want to hire them. Can I please hire them? So we have people here who desperately want to work. We have employers here who definitely want to hire them. We have a federal government that stands in the way of our ability to get them hired. I talked to a migrant on Friday who is here on an asylum claim, and that asylum claim is set to be adjudicated right now in the year 2029. And so that is not a path to success for him or for our city, but they do desperately want to work. We just want to give them the chance to get to work.
All right, a message from the middle of the country to Washington. Help us get these people to work. Mayor Mike Johnson, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a great day.